What's up, everybody? This is Mr.13, and I would like to thank y'all for joining us for our very first episode of the Sit Down. Very excited to have this gentleman on the show today with us. His name is Darick Spears. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. For those of you who are not familiar with Darick Spears, he is from Milwaukee. He is an accomplished entrepreneur. He wears many hats. He is a music producer. He's an artist. He's a writer. He's put out documentaries. He has his own website where he sells all of his projects, and you can check that out. And I'm sure I might have missed a few things, but we're going to talk about it, and we're going to sit down and have a conversation or a discussion. I'm not sure Legacy wants me using his word. He got it copywritten, but it is what it is.
Shout out to Legacy.
What's up, Darick? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm very honored to be, especially in New York. Especially growing up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I would not have ever expected to be in New York doing an interview, to be honest with you. So.
Yeah, but this isn't your first time here.
No, you're right. Rodeo. I came out years ago, y'all had the Cypher show. And that was definitely let me get my feet wet as an artist. It was one of the first times I was in a radio station, and amongst other artists, and they were spitting, and we just was like, I loved the competition. When I first came out here, it was shocking to me. It was like a culture shock because I'm so used to seeing it on TV versus in my face.
Gotcha.
Actually being in there, so I appreciated it was like a launch pad for me because after that, I gained more confidence. Went out there, went to LA doing, interviews with different places, and it kind of like set the stage and tone for me of how it should be done. So that's a big shout out to you and the Cypher show. Yeah,
for anyone who's watching that doesn't know, we have a show called The Cypher. We've been doing it for 10 years. Like I said, my name is Mr.13. I'm one of the original hosts of The Cypher show, and DDS was one of our original guests on that show. And here we are in our own station now. We were at DTF before, but now we're at our own station. And he came back to sit down with us and talk about what he's got going on. So You're from Milwaukee. For anyone who has never been to Milwaukee, why don't you tell them a little bit about that city?
Milwaukee is an interesting city. It's first and foremost, it's very segregated, from the city. If you're from the city, you can easily be like, South Side, Hispanics, North Side. Can we say niggas? Black people. I don't want to.
You could say that.
Okay, you know what?
I'm not gonna say it.
Black folks, college kids, East Side. But the thing about it is, one thing that I love about Milwaukee, and one thing is the same thing that I love it. It's very, there's a lot of talent there.
Okay.
It's a lot of rough dirt. What I mean by rough dirt is it's a black cloud over the city, but that black cloud also helped me to to be able to go to any city, any city, and they say the world is a ghetto, and be able to deal when you grow up in the city, you learn quick. On the block, you first learn, you learn when you first move onto a block. The first thing you learn is they're gonna pick at you until you stand up for yourself.
Yep.
You learn the rules on the block, not to snitch. Police, you learn all that stuff. You learn all about that stuff, and you're able to just take that knowledge and move around any block. Yeah. Certain people end up having issues because they really, first of all, didn't learn those. Really didn't learn from what they were taught. Me, I learned quick. Yeah. So I learned to take what I learned took from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which most people, it's funny when I go travel. They be like, do you guys live on farms because we're from the cheese state? And it's like, no, man, we don't live on farms. It's rough, rugged, raw out there. Yeah. But when I say raw, it's very talented. It's diverse. It's a lot of people out there who just trying to make it at crabs in a bucket, and a lot of times we step over each other because we don't understand that if you come together and you network and you interlock like this and that, and you can help each other out. But a lot of times, it's, be honest with you, it just don't exist.
Yeah, we've experienced that here too in New York City. There is not much unity. Yeah. But you got to pick and choose the individuals that you work with. Got my homeboy sitting over there. Yeah, he definitely always supports. Shout out to Steve.
That's my day one right there.
2020 collection. Yes. Go get that.
Shout out to 2020 collection. I be wearing it back at home in the malls and everything. They stop me. Where you get that from? That to me. That's supporting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, exactly. So now, the last time you was with us, you did the music and you still do music. Mm-hmm. How's that going along for you?
my plight from when I first left the Cypher it was a lot of grinding. First and foremost, after I came to the station, I got a little more shows, and I got to work with artists out here. I got to work with a producer named Cortland. I don't know if you know who Cortland is. He's from the Bronx. I got to work with him and go out to the Bronx, and he introduced me to different people. We did like little ciphers, and I put in my work. Basically what I'm trying to tell the people is I put in my work.
Yeah.
Now, years later, I was able to build up a good a following and a network of people where I was able to. I started to think outside the box. I said, man, when I come to these spots, most time I come to hip hop spots, it's just overshadowed with just all artists. You know what I mean? Everybody spitting. Everywhere you turn, I spit. So I said, let me go out to areas where they don't have much hip hop artists. So I started going and mingling in country circles and rock, and it led me to the point where I got a phone call from someone. Well, actually, I got a phone call from somebody to meet them in Chicago, a guy named Grant, and he said, meet us in Chicago. We having a dinner, like a meet and greet. I'm like, that's something I never would do. I went out there, sat down, ate with them, and it was two guys in there playing some music, which they would later on go on the year later to win 2 Grammys. Okay. And I was just like, I met these guys. Yeah. One is playing a flute, one is playing this, and that, and they actually invited me out to L.A., and I came out to L.A., and I had this track called Cop Killers. I was working on an album called The One Love Project because it was right around the time where the riots was real big, and so I came out there and I was used to bringing my album, my CD or whatever. So I brought it out there, and it was a crowd of it was like a lot of white people, this and that. And I was just like,
around what year was this?
This was 2015.
Okay,
and I was nervous because I'm like, okay, but I was like, my track didn't work.
Yeah,
so I said, scratch it, whatever. And I started kicking my thing. I'm astonished by how many folks fought themselves to the bondage. I started going into all this stuff, and I started kicking around, and I look up. By the time I was done, everybody was clapping and standing on their feet. Yeah. I'm like, oh, shoot. I'm like, okay. So that led me to being known as the rapper. Like, they all start saying, he's the hip-hop guy, which made it much different than when you walk into a club and everybody the hip-hop guy. You know what I mean?
Everybody,
I got a call that later on that year, they were doing a single called Shine On, and they was like, we need a verse. Now, all over the years, I'm real quick at writing and quick whatever. So I didn't even know these two people. They were like, we need a verse for the song called Shine On. It's kind of about overcoming and this and that. Yeah. And I was like, that's right up my alley. So they sent me the track because they were like, well, who could do this? And someone wrote in the Facebook circle, they said they just put Darick Spears.
Darick Spears, yeah.
So I got contacted by these people, and I'm like, oh, but they would have never known if I didn't ever go into that other circle.
Yeah, if you hadn't.
Next thing you know, we're on the Grammy ballot. Flying out to LA, we got radio shows. Yeah. We have interviews. We're doing like photos all up and down, like all in LA. Stuff I just didn't do. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh shoot.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, the guys like, when you get Grammy, see, people don't want to think about the Grammys, and I know people say, oh, this and that. As an artist, I've been sitting in my bedroom. I was sitting in my bedroom for years staring at the Grammys, and it's like, man, I just never thought I could.
And you've been at the Grammys.
I've been at Grammys. This is going on 4 years in a row.
Nice.
And every year got better. I've actually performed during Grammy week. I got to perform in New York 2 years ago. They had the Grammys in New York for the first time in a long time. Yeah. I got to do 54. I don't know if it's Studio 54 or something here. It's called 54 or something. But I got to perform. Yeah,
Studio 54 was back in the days. I don't know if they like recreated something.
Yeah, it was a recreation that we performed there.
All right.
And I did a throwback. I just jumped on. I actually did something that was spontaneous, which is what we do in hip hop too.
Yeah.
I hopped on the drums because I play the drums. Yeah. And I just said, I told one of my friends, she's a jazz artist. I said, you just do some scat, you sing. And I had some other guy, I was like, you play the piano, because I was headlining a show. Yeah. And I was like, let's just do it. So they were like, I was just following my lead. So I get on the drums and I start playing, man. I just started rhyming at the same time. And they hadn't seen that before. And they went,
I don't really know too many hip hop artists that play the drums, you know what I mean? Like,
so it was dope. So after that, literally it expanded more. Because what happens is that people start talking, and I just say this to hip hop artists and other people artists, to think outside of the box. The main thing they do is tell us to throw a chain on our neck, throw a bandana on, we hardcore, you don't want to. But it's like, dude, creativity has no. I'm looking at that, pushing the boundaries of creativity.
Yeah.
Like creativity, like be creative. Like show me some creativity with your stuff and put it where you wouldn't think it. And that's where my music has gone
Yeah.
to the point where I put out about 20-something albums. I had my own albums on the Grammy ballot in Milwaukee, the One Love Project.
Yeah.
And I mean, seeing it right next to your favorite artist.
Yeah. And you've been nominated for other awards. I saw the
yeah.
Josie Award, Australian Independent Music
Yes.
Awards. How does that feel?
It's great. I won a couple of awards. It was great to be a nominated, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it was great to even win some of the awards.
Okay.
I wasn't. Some of them, to be honest with you, I didn't even know. I hadn't even known. Someone else told me.
Yeah.
They were like, "Hey, congratulations! So you won that award." And I was like, "What? What award?" Because when you're grinding,
Yeah.
you ain't got time to really be thinking about
you keep moving.
You keep moving, and then you find out some of the rewards that you do. And I just thank first of all, thank God for the talent, and then I thank even learning from other people as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because honesty, we talk about Steve. Me and Steve, like, I bounce stuff off of him. You know what I mean? Like, people don't know. I never would have known of New York unless it was Steve.
Yeah.
Steve used to, back in the day, I grew up in a household we couldn't listen to secular. We couldn't listen to any type of secular music because my dad and my mom was very, very religious. But when I went to my nigga Steve, my brother Steve's house, he had every hip hop artist. I never knew who Wu-Tang was.
Yeah.
He would tell me who Wu-Tang was, Mobb Deep was, and we would just feed spoon.
Yeah.
He knew I was a lyricist. He knew I wrote poetry, all that. But I didn't know. The funny thing is, I was just being creative growing up. I didn't know about these artists like that because they couldn't play them in our house. We heard them on the block.
Yeah.
Walk down the block.
Yeah, and it was different back in the day.
Yeah.
There was no internet.
No internet.
It was real difficult for that music to reach certain areas. Like, I had cousins in Puerto Rico that they would come here and I would play music for them. They're like, we never heard it. And I'll be like, yo, this is like 5 years old.
Yeah, it's even to this day. Some music, and I love the fact that we can listen to all music now, because now you don't have to listen to what you don't want to listen to. I just discovered some artist who, I forgot his name. I don't even want to. He was a Japanese producer or something.
Okay.
But he died years ago. But his music was dope. His name starts with an N. I'll figure out. But I've been listening to his music lately, and I'm like, I never knew of him.
I think I might know who you're talking about. He used to DJ and produce. Yeah. Yep. With an H, I think.
Yeah, something,
Hyro or something like that.
Yeah, something. But I've been listening to his music, and I'm like, it's so pure. I'm like, I never knew who that was. Yeah. Someone told me your album is never old. It's always new
to someone who hasn't heard it.
Who never heard it.
Yeah, I tell that to my artist, this is the icon. He's like, I'm tired of performing my single. I'm like, but they never heard it.
They never heard it.
You got to get over that and keep pushing. Was it Master P performed Bout It for like 3-4 years before it took off?
Big inspiration to me. Yeah, Master P was one of my big inspirations. I didn't even know who Master P was. My brother, he was a hustler, and he brought Master P in the house one day. He was like, I was like, who is this guy? And I just heard, if I could change it, Bout It. And my first question, honestly, was like, he owns all of this? Yep. Even at that age, I'm like, that set the mind frame for me to own all my stuff. Cause I'm like, this dude owns all of this too?
Yep.
I'm like, oh, shoot.
Yeah, Master P was definitely one of the first to set that standard of owning your own and creating for yourself, not letting this, your music be pimped out or utilized by the bigger corporations.
Yeah,
he was an inspiration for me too. But that's how I came up, with some of my ideas.
Yeah, and essentially, I want to be honest too. Over the years, going to the Grammys and stuff also opened my eyes in a different way. It made me step away from the industry because some people don't value your art. They pass in these Grammy communities and stuff, and there's no diss to them, but a lot of times they pass music around or their stuff around like it's nothing, like it's meaningless, or I'm not trying. I'm like, there's a value to my art. You know what I mean? Like, it's a value, and I think people should have a value on what you do, or it's just going to be passed around, and you look at it like it's meaningless. And that's what made me step away and be like, a lot of this stuff is smoke and mirrors. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of these people are there really just to get a name. Yeah. They don't give a care about, they have no talent, no skill. They don't care about, even with rap, I be in the circles and they be like, the way they look at rap, and they just be like, they still don't get it. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, it made me look at them like, I don't need a beat. I'm going to break this rhyme down. You're going to hear every word that I say, and then you tell me about rap.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, a lot of people say, hip hop is dead, but it's out there. You just got to dig and look for everywhere. It. And then internet is huge. It's out there. You got to look. Yeah. You got to look. So, you accomplished a lot with the music. And I was following some of your posts that you put on LinkedIn, and I see that you have documentaries. Now, how did you get into that?
Now, people don't know. I've been an artistic dude all my life. When I went to college in 2000, I went in as a theater student.
Okay.
So I was a theater student, and I did that for like half a year or so, but I had to get out of it because I couldn't go to no parties and stuff. Like you're in there all day in stagecraft on Saturday, and I wrote plays and stuff and put it on in the city when I was. I wrote a play called A Phony Dream, and I put it on in the city. I wrote it. I had actors in there. I invited people from the city. We packed the house. It was a dope play, and I wrote plays, and I always was the guy in my circle who, till this day, has always created short documentaries and stuff for people. And I had a lot of them that I was just doing for people around the way. They probably to this day still have my DVDs in their houses. But I was kind of like, wait a minute, I have this stuff I'm sitting on. Why am I not putting it out? Like, I've been doing this for years. Like, so I put out an album called Milwaukee in 2017, 18. It was like around 17, 18. And I was like, because I'm tired of going from state to state and people saying, where's Milwaukee? What is Milwaukee? So I put out a whole album. Yeah. You can go on iTunes, whatever, and it's called Milwaukee. Even the songs in there are streets in the Fond du Lac, Center Street, where I grew up on. All streets, everything is centered around my life. It's based off my life, but it's also my perspective of growing up in Milwaukee. Yeah. So I put together a documentary called Miraculous, and it was basically me showing myself.
Miraculous, like that.
Yeah, Miraculous, MIL, and every one of the songs
cool.
I wanted to put Mill in most of the stuff. So I got a song called Mill-Tarded. It's like the Milltown State of Mind. Gotcha. Miraculous. You know what I mean? It was a lot of that kind of stuff. Instrumental, like I said, an instrumental is Mill-strumental.
Got you.
So I just put together a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, it's just to put the city out there, and so when I did a documentary, I did a short documentary, and people liked it. So I started to be like, well, man, I should try to get this on Amazon Prime or something, try to get it out there. And once I set my mind to do something, I just focused on doing it, and I got it on there. And I was like, oh shoot! So I did a documentary a year or two before that called Pastor Howard the Legacy. He was a pastor of mine. He died. But I saw that. Yeah, I had known him for like 20 years. And the crazy part is I only did that documentary for his family, and I did that documentary in 1 week. Yeah. Like I sat in my crib, grabbed clips, everything, and just put it together just to document his life, and then I brought it to his children, and just as a gift of comfort. Gotcha. And they liked it so much, his oldest son, one of his sons just gave me a $50 bill, like, here, you should sell this. And I'm like, you want me to sell it? I don't want to just, I'm not trying to sell your pop stuff. And he's like, no, sell it. I love the way you represented my dad.
Yeah, carrying his legacy on. Yeah,
so I revamped it a little bit, cut it short, because it's the one that you see on Amazon Prime now is actually like 20 minutes shorter than what the original one was. I actually made a DVD and an audio version of it that I'll have probably in my store. That audio version is the same version, but it's just all like an audio. So the whole documentary is audio. Gotcha. So I did those, and then I put it out on Amazon Prime, and then I did another one on my brother. He had just came out of prison called Beyond These Prison Walls. Okay. And he was just really talking about his flight from going from, doing such and such things to going and building, just increasing and doing better. Finally, I did one this last year called Secret Success Stories. Okay. And that's all about being in an elevator, walking down the block. You see somebody and they talk to you for 3 or 4 minutes and they change your life. You're like, dang, they just gave me a story that I would have never, that blew my mind. Yeah. And I was like, I want to do this with people who just give me 5 minutes. And I have another season coming out. I just have people who send me stuff. I would love to get your story on there too.
Yeah, I'm down, like, man. We get that power.
People just don't know how powerful a 5-minute talk could be. Yeah, exactly. Because when we think of success, everybody always be like, think about money and this, and it's like, no. Success it can become overcoming failure. It could be like, man, I was on drugs or I was messed up last summer, this and that. But look what I'm doing now. Yeah. It's like, oh shoot, you just flipped and changed that whole thing, and it's a switching on and off of a mind state. So it's like, I was like, I don't want people to look at secret success stories as, man, they just talk about money. I talk about, in the first episode, it's called Autism and Perseverance. I talk about as a father, me overcoming, having like all people coming in my house 35 hours a week. We dealing with my daughter, and which we still do every day, dealing with an autistic person is very, very hard. Like we still to this day, she's like 11. We still doing like potty training, all that. It's like crazy.
Yeah.
So I tell that. Sorry,
it's okay.
I tell those stories, and then I have other people. I got one of my friends, Natalie. She's an artist, and she talks about depression and how being creative helped her get over depression.
Yeah.
So.
Sorry, Ray. All right.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, so before, right before we went to a break, Darick had to take a drink of water. Yeah. And now we're back.
Yep.
And you were talking about your media company being a tri-media company?
Yeah, tri-media company, which I already, it was basically all the time, it was for writing, for book. It was ironically, I made it before I even started writing books. It was for book writing, for film, and for music.
Okay.
So I was doing for years the music and the film started. The reason I turned to film, to be quite real with you, is I got tired of the music industry.
Okay.
So I was like, let me try to dive into the film world. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I even last year I sent the Oscars because I was trying to get into the Academy.
Okay.
I was trying to become an Academy member, and they have prerequisites or whatever. If you made a film, you could try to get into like the documentary segment of the Academy, this and that. And I was like, so I sent them like a documentary or something. I was just, I just sent them, and I was trying to get. I don't even know if they got it. Okay. They're so tight that you don't know. They have so less members. Like they don't even have so few members. You don't know. But if you get nominated for like an Oscar, I guess what I was reading, they'll send you an invitation. They're like one of them invitation only people.
Okay.
Well, I tried to be different. I was like, I know y'all invitation only people, but I'm sending y'all something. Y'all gonna know about their experience.
You never know what might come of it, man.
So I sent them some stuff because I was like, check my IMDb out. I got some stuff. I got some credits. So that made me to dive into the film world because I was like, film, if you really look at music paints pictures. And nowadays, we're in such a visual society. Everybody walk around with their phone. I was like, now people really, really want to get into people. They like hearing the music. They also want to see a visual. So I was like, I got to really tap back into my visual side. And I'm still working on getting more and more visuals and stuff like that. But I was like, I want to get all three of them on the same level. You know? So I was like putting stuff out. And I even the stuff that I had put out, it was from years ago. So it was like, I got stuff that I'm working on now that's way better, even way better, sonically way better, like editing wise, all that. I was like putting that other stuff out because I feel like this, no matter what you do, it shouldn't be lost in the sauce. If I first find out about an artist, I usually go back to their first album, or I go find out everything that they did a long time ago. So I tell people, don't ever feel bad if you're like, oh, I put that out, it was a dud. No. Keep pushing because whatever your breakthrough is going to be, everybody's still going to go back and find all the old stuff and be like, oh, that's dope. I like people more their old stuff than I like their new stuff.
Especially now that we live in a digital age where everything is online.
Yeah. Everything is online. I started to get to that point too where you feel like you lose it as an artist. And you got to reinvent yourself. You're like, man, the world of the world moves so fast. It's like an ongoing tide. It's just going and going. And whatever you put out can be popular today, tomorrow. They don't know who you are, and it just keeps going. So I was like, if you put out something timeless, though, it's going to stay there, and it's going to be timeless. That's why you see artists like Rakim and them are, I just bought his book this year. Older artists are popping they just did for the Grammys. I think somebody just got nominated for redoing "Follow the Leader" album.
Oh wow!
All jazz. It was just all jazz. Follow the Leader, and it went #1. So it was like it made their album. So I was thinking man, you might have thought that Rakim and them died down, but nah. Look, people are bringing them. Wu-Tang. Look at Wu-Tang.
Yeah, Wu-Tang had a huge resurgence in the last year.
Hulu series. Yep. You know what I mean? They got even the Showtime documentaries and everything. I was just like,
of Men and Mikes.
I'm like, whatever you do. I got put on the Wu-Tang early by Steve. Yeah. Steve put me on Wu-Tang when I was strictly Pac. It was Tupac Shakur because in the 90s when Pac died, Pac had such a huge
Pac
presence.
Was dominating.
He dominated no matter who was rapping. You was like, if it ain't Pac, especially in Milwaukee too. If it ain't Pac, we good. In Milwaukee, we had issues. The Pac had some run-ins in Milwaukee. Actually, he got banned from Milwaukee.
Oh shit!
But his legacy was so strong back then that I couldn't get with Wu-Tang. I liked the Method Man back then, but I couldn't get with any other ones because they were ahead of their time. And I used to just be like, I didn't like them. I didn't like who I got compared to. Okay. When I first started rapping, I was very lyrical.
So who did they compare you to?
Common and Wu-Tang all the time.
Oh man, those are good comparisons, bro.
But to me, we were the environment you grow up in, you know, nothing to Common, but Common from Chicago, we were so used to everything got to be hardcore. And, I was like, man, they kind of soft. Like, I didn't think Wu-Tang was soft. I just was like, they used big words, and Pac was more like, he used big words, but he was more rough in your face. Then No Limit came out, then Cash Money. It was just like, Scarface was always my favorite, like hardcore. And I was just like, brainwashed as a child, like, it got to be hardcore.
I got
you. Now I appreciate them way more. I'm like, I became a fan over the years. Like, Steve would call me like, hey, bro, you need to check out Liquid Swords. I'm like, what is Liquid Swords?
Yeah, Liquid Swords is a classic.
You need to check out Supreme Clientele. I'm like, this is years ago. And I'm like, Supreme Clientele. He put me on one of my favorite artists now, MF Doom. He like, check out Operation Doomsday.
Listen, I don't feel bad. Okay, I love Liquid Swords. First time I listened to Supreme Clientele was in 2017.
See, I don't feel bad because
and Iron Man, and what was that? What was Iron Man? The joint? Yo, that's the first time was 2017, and I realized, damn, I'm missing out. And I'm from New York. I should be ashamed to say this right now, but
it shows you how much you, like you said, your music is never old. When somebody else discovers it that day. That's why I put it out there. I'll be like, you know what? You ain't listened to Milwaukee yet. Years from now, when you listen to Milwaukee, you're gonna be like, that's classic. Every rhyme from the opening, you know what I mean? When I come in, I'm straight out the Milltown, raised around the lawless guys, where no laws apply, the rough north side, where forks fly, where the niggas is straightforward front wheel drive. If you front, homeboy, guess what? You die. The Bruce City, you hear narratives from a true nigga, bald-headed, silent, handsome nigga, 250.
That shit, on the spot, bars.
You with me? I'm grimy and intelligent, survived all the pestilence. God designed me to move these precedent. DDS, tell us what the message is. A city full of fearless kids and appearances, crabs in a bucket, hate-filled citizens. You know, everybody got a piece of hate in their sentences. We need to come together and embrace our teammates. We need to love a Christ in our grim days. It's DDS your sensei. And them niggas like might get high, but we get low, nigga. Catch your nigga at the Sitco gas station, blast hatred, because he was throwing up a pitchfork, busted glass, hit the pavement. Dang. It's like, that's just the first, that's the opening
painting
verse.
Some pictures for them right there.
So I was like, but I got influenced by listening to other albums. And I'm like, if I'm going to come to your city and you just like, what city you from? So I was in Minnesota once and I performed that track, Milwaukee. And I just got off stage. It was just me and my wife. We was in like a club or a hole in the wall, whatever. Got off and the bouncer came up to me afterwards like, bro, I'm feeling that Milwaukee track. But it was like he was listening to poetry. And I learned that from listening to Liquid Swords, Supreme Clientele. You know what I mean? Illmatic. I'm like, you put that in and no matter what, you're in a city. And I was like, that's going to happen. For people, when they listen to Milwaukee, they're gonna go back and say, "I'm in his city." So you know what I mean. So
that's I understand what you're saying. For me, I like to listen to artists who bring you into their own world. You know, like the way they spit it and they explain it, and then you're visually and physically like in that environment.
Yeah, you gotta be. I learned that because it's a movie. Like I learned vocabulary. I was telling I was doing an interview the other day with a guy. Named Rodney, but I was telling him I learned a lot of vocabulary listening to hip hop. I would hear them say a word and I'd be like, facetious, what is that? Go back to, you know what I mean? Or, check the prognosis. You know, he's just sitting there like, these are words I didn't hear growing up. And I'll go right to the dictionary. Like, what does that word mean? What does this word mean? What does this word mean? Oh, shoot. You know what I mean? You talk about they
made a list on, I think it was XXL of the MCs that had the biggest vocabularies, and a lot of the Wu-Tang members were on that list.
They should be. Like the words they use. I'm on a mission that some say is impossible, but when I swing, all my swords is choppable.
Shout out to the Wu-Tang.
Yeah, like the stuff they use. That's why back in the day, I hated on them, and I admit it because I was a reader, voracious. I just love reading, and I was like, they just using big. I used to remember telling my guy, he'd be playing in the car. I'm like, man, them niggas just using big.
They're just throwing big words out there.
But when I started listening to them, even now, I'm like, they wasn't just throwing out big words. That was, they were ahead of their time. Even to this day, people still don't understand how ahead of their time they are. But when you use words, they're powerful, and if you're able to, don't feel bad if it don't hit right now. That's what I'm trying to tell people. Don't feel bad.
Yeah. Got to keep going, man. Not everything is an overnight success. And most times what you think is an overnight success is really years in the making.
It was. DMX, look at him, 18 years before It's Dark and Hell is Hot. And I just got some of the stuff when he said, niggas is we get it with old rhymes. He said it in one song I ride for my niggas, dog. Nigga, what? Ride. He was like, yeah, I laugh now because niggas get it with old rhymes. And what he meant by that is if you listen to some of his stuff, back in the day, he was saying those same rhymes. And it took him that many years in the making, and he still was using the same rhymes, and everybody was like, oh my God, this is dope. And he's like, I was saying that like 10 years ago, and y'all was like.
They just caught up to it. That's what it is. That's what it is. So with the music and the film, how different is making film from making music?
I feel like film is an eye thing. You know what I mean? You have to have the eye, and you still use your imagination, but you use your eyes. You use your sense of like, it's visual. So when you're writing, you use your mind, and you're just writing, like you just creating movies. You're just bouncing off the wall. This, that. You're creating a description or something. But when you're filming, it's a mirror. You start to show the mirror what it is. And certain people don't have the eye. They just don't. Everybody, I've learned this over the years. Everybody can't play all positions. I can't do certain things that other people can do.
Gotcha.
And you find a person who got that eye, even myself, if I run into somebody who got that eye and they just got it like, I can see this, and that. Even like if you're a photographer, certain photographers, they could do pictures and you're like, man, I didn't even see that. I used to take film courses in school. I went to school to do film too. So they would show you like how people like would zoom in on stuff and then like come back out and it'd be coming clear. You're like, oh shoot, I didn't even notice that was right there, but they had the eye. So filming, that's the shooting part of it.
Yeah.
But writing also comes into play.
Yeah.
You see people like 50 Cent who are great writers and they got like powers is dope. Like stuff, they can write it. And
Power was dope till season 5.
I know, it got crazy, man. It got crazy.
Then I don't know what happened. They think it's JR who shot Ghost.
Yeah, we just watched season 6, episode 11 the other night. We was like, man, who shot Ghost? They're like, man, I don't know, but it's crazy that people be like really talking about it like that's good writing. When you got somebody talking about it everywhere you go, like they're in the movie or I love documentaries because they tell, to me, they're so real.
Yeah.
Documentaries document stuff. So it's like, it was a documentary I watched that blew my mind called Father Divine.
Okay.
Have you ever heard? I don't know.
No, I haven't seen that one. What's that about?
This guy you have to look it up. This guy was living in New York in the 30s, 40s. This guy was bigger than, he was a black guy.
Okay.
He had 1 million white followers.
Wow.
This is during all this racism stuff. Yeah. And they had pictures and video of this. To this day, he has his own, like, he's dead or whatever, but he has his own, they have like his own land where they all live. And his chair is still empty, but they talk to him like the reason they tried to write him out of history is because they called this man God. Yeah. And he was in Harlem. Around all these people, he fed people, kitchens, everything. They have real video of this guy, and that's why I was like, I love documentaries. They document him. Yeah. So you can't lie and say he's not. And this guy actually, even back then, nothing is new under the sun. That's why he had people signing, different legislators. He was actually he owned a resort next to the president. Okay. But listen, he didn't work at all. The people gave him all this money. They believed in him so much. So the government was trying to where's this guy getting this from? They could never attack him because the people were giving him the money to do this. And he would he broke racism a lot. He would let people in the navies stay on his resort for $1, I believe $1 a month. Yeah. If they integrated with black people. Wow. And they did. So he was doing this way back then. So I'm just like, that documentary just took me in, and I was just like.
And who made this documentary?
I don't know who shot it. It was his people.
It was his own people?
His own people, but basically, I forget the guy who actually directed it. But the people brought out all the footage or whatever. Yeah. To the point where they're building a library, man. It's crazy.
I got to check that out.
They're building a library.
Father Divine?
Yeah, Father Divine. It's called Father Divine. He actually, and I'm not even saying, I think it's tripped out. I don't like follow him like that or like that. But I just wanted to make the point that it's people out here who are doing things that you probably don't know about if you're not checking. Like, and they say he was the most unknown person, with a black guy with 1 million followers, with people were getting lynched.
Yeah. That's crazy. I definitely got to check that out. I like documentaries. The last documentary I checked out was Bikram, the Bikram yoga joint. Did you see that?
Yes. Yeah, when they had like cases against him and stuff.
Yeah, he's out in India or Pakistan. Well, I don't know where he's at, but in one of those countries, he's on the run.
I don't know.
He was a wild boy.
He was a wild boy, but I be having, I have like mixed feelings about documentaries like those, because sometimes I'll be like, it's true, but sometimes I also be like, sometimes and I don't want to sound like that, but sometimes people have to know what they're walking into. Yeah. They be around, something goes wrong. Even the R. Kelly stuff, like, I know R. Kelly been doing wrong for a long time, but I know some of those women sound like they're just angry, bitter women. Yeah. And I'm like, it's always two sides to each story. Yeah. But I like people who are brave filmmakers and brave documentary people who be like, you know what, we're going to explore both sides of it, not just one side. We want to hear this from other people, the other side, because I think people get afraid of not getting funded or this and that. Me, I would tell you, go out there and make a film that ain't gonna get funded, put it out there independently, and let people start discovering what it is. People decide how big stuff is. You can have 1 million. Master P is a sample. The industry didn't let him in. He sold about 1 million copies on bought it on the street. Yeah, or 500,000.
Sometimes these documentaries come with, they're funded by agendas. You know, so
I have actually had documentary. I've actually been biased against. I've tried to enter my film into film festivals, and they asked me if I was gay or bisexual, and I said no, and they wouldn't even allow me to put my film into it. Yeah, I was like, dang, you can't be what you're trying to change. Like, you can't be mad because I'm not that. I'm not dissing you because you're that, but you can't not allow me to. Then you're doing discrimination now. So
yeah, I understand. Yeah, I hear you. That's craziness.
So that's what made me really get back into film too. They need some mavericks.
Well, when you want to prove your point, generally you should show both sides of the story, so then you can actually poke holes into the other side and prove your case. You're not proving the case if you're just showing one side of the coin. So you have a Tri Media.
So books. Yeah,
what's the name of this company?
DDS Media Works. Okay. Now DDS came from it's my initials, but it was me actually liberating myself from being under my brothers. Now, I had 2 older brothers growing up who it wasn't pleasant for me because they were, in my opinion, growing up, they were the handsome ones. They always had their shirts off. I grew up, I was a little chubby boy. You know what I mean? To the point where I got taller than them, and it's not bashing them at all. They know. Go to the parks, we go hooping, and people be like, "Oh, is that your cousin?" Yeah. Like, I was the cousin. I'm like, nah, this is my brother. You know what I mean? So it was more of a, let me make my own who I am. You know what I mean? Like, let me say who I am. So I started to just walk around like, what's up? I'm DDS. And people they just started to, turn into other things. Like, I had a gang too. I had a little clique when I was in 9th grade. A positive gang called DDS, Domination Over This Dead Society. Gotcha. You know what I mean? That's what it stood for. But it was like, I always wanted to do something different and positive. Gotcha. Versus if my brothers didn't do a lot of criminal activity, I probably would have. I wanted to always do totally opposite of what they did. Gotcha. Because people people walk up to me and say, "Man, you're a little quirky, you're a little weird. Why aren't you like your brothers?" Yeah. And it's because I was the just creative person who liked to just be creative and sometimes a hermit and sometimes, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I just want to use my mind, you know what I mean? And it made me different. But I started to, later on in life, embrace that. That's my difference. And that's what really created my Tri Media company. I'm like, this is all what I do. Yeah. So
a part of that Tri Media company, you got the music, the films, and the books. So I was at DarickBooks.com, right? Yep. So how did you come up with that concept, and why did you come up with
Darick Books? All started from doors being slammed in my face. Well, it all started actually. It definitely did. With me writing as a writer, the bookstore started from doors being closed in my face. But me first writing a book, came from frustration of being a father, raising my autistic daughter, and learning how to deal with 35 hours a week of people in your house. People dissing you like, oh, you're a stay-at-home dad. Dads don't stay at home. You know what I mean?
I'm a stay-at-home dad. What?
Yeah.
You get punched in your face talking that shit.
Exactly. They don't understand how common it is these days. I heard so many negative comments. People talking about me, saying this and that, or people calling me like, such and such said this about you because you were staying at home. And I'm like, I'm not just staying at home, not doing that. You staying at home, those are hard jobs. When you at home raising a kid, that's a job. When you at home and you got to keep the house up together, that's a job. Add more kids on. Add people coming in your house 35 hours a week. You got to manage all that stuff.
Making 20 albums, writing 60 books. You try to do that.
You try to do that. And that's what came from it. It pushed my boundaries of my creativity because I was like, if I have to stay in this house, it's almost like being locked in a cell. What am I going to do locked in a cell? I just started to Picasso, throw stuff on the wall or you know what I mean? Basquiat, what is they? Start throwing stuff on there, painting my portraits of life and saying like, this is me. So I wrote a book called The Diary of a Stay-at-Home Dad, my journal behind bars.
Gotcha.
Because the bars was the house that I was in. And I was just like, it was chapters called Chop Off My Dick. That's the name of chapter. This is out there. I have an audio version of this out. I got an audio version of the book and a regular version. And I put the book out on Amazon and it became a bestseller. For like a week straight, it was a bestseller.
That's
and
awesome.
I put it out and it was on a Grammy ballot and everything. So I was like, oh shoot, I did something. Okay, so I started writing, and I'm gonna tell you something. I got influenced by people like Master P. The reason I'm about it is the most horrible yet dopest movie. Why? Because it's the most low budget, raw. It's like, what in the world is this? But I find myself loving to watch it more than any of his movies. And that's how I felt about my books. I was like, man, I'm writing it so raw. I'm talking to you just. If you're a dad, you understand what I'm going through. Even if you're a mom, I'm telling you exactly how I feel. Oh my God, I just walked into the kitchen and the girl had boo on the floor. What am I going to do? You know what I mean? I'm talking to you like real person. You know, it might be some spelling errors. I went back and fixed it, but I'm just like, this is what I'm going to do. So from there, I started writing other books to push boundaries. I wrote a book called You Call Yourself a Christian that was based off reality. Mostly all of my books are based off my life.
Got you.
I wrote a book called Sex Tales, which is a big, and I have another thing. I have written TV shows. I have 5 TV show scripts at home and about 6 movie scripts from my books that I've written based off my book, turning them into movies, and that's why I'm talking about getting back to the film thing, because it's all real. And the most crazy thing about it is, growing up, I always was the guy who had a lot of stories that happened to me that you wouldn't believe. You just like that. I was the guy in college. They would call at 1 or 2 in the morning. They all drunk. Come tell us a story. Come sit around the table, tell us a story. Because I was like Slick Rick, but I was telling real stories.
Life experience.
So my books became my real life experiences, and I put out Sex Tales. It was funny. It was like first it was like a short book, and then people were buying it on the street. It was underground. I had a lot of female ladies or people liked the book. So I expanded it to be about a guy who was on his plight of walking a righteous path, and he found it harder to survive the righteous path than it was the wider path of just being on the street. He found out that it was church HOEs. I don't want to say it was pimping bishops and all of this.
There's a culture behind it.
All culture. And he found all this out, and he was like, man, I'm just trying to walk a righteous path, but I see all of this craziness. So Sex Tales, when people see the title, they don't understand that sex tells a story. You know what I mean? That's what I mean by that. Sex tells a story about different things, like whether how sexual the person is, or whatever they're being sneaky, or are they just having sex to set you up and get you, and in the book, that's what happens. Some of the book, only pieces of the book is crazy, is like tilted to be like, but 90% of the book is real. But just to give the story twist, the guy is setting up one of his friends with the best adventures of his life. You know what I mean? But he's doing it for guilt. He doesn't know why he's doing it. Like why he sitting, all these girls are popping up in my hotel, they're taking me this and that, they showing me the time of my life, but what is the reasons behind this? So in the end of the first book, that he overhears some of the females talking, like, oh yeah, such and such told us to do these things, and he's like, wait a minute, what did he do? What did he do to you know what I mean?
To
so
get
it's
y'all
like,
to do that.
Yeah, so it's like a deep, also a street book. So it's like that book came out such and such. So I started writing those books, and it was really getting a lot of. I was like, if I'm going to grow older and talk, you know, and raise my kids, this and that, I could still live vicariously through my books and my music. I can still tell my stories. I don't have to be out there doing it. You know what I mean? But I can still show what and leave messages in there like, you can get out of this is that. But I felt like people weren't being raw. I like Donald Goings and you know, the raw, even the stories behind. He used to tell all the stories. Well, I'm not. I don't know, you know, with him, but I wanted to do that kind of stuff. You know?
Iceberg Slim.
Iceberg Slim too. I was studying him. I studied the greats. I studied the stuff they did, and I was like, well, what can I add? You know, and I'm a poet. In my closet, I have about hundreds of notebooks. I'm talking about the 90-page notebooks filled with poetry. Like, I've written poetry. I have books that I've written when I was 12, 13 in my closet right now. That, you know, so I was like, let me put all this stuff out. So Darick Books came because I was trying to get my books into jail. The jail thing, I was like, man, people need to hear these stories. Sex tell, they need to hear In Christ of Christian. They need to hear these stories because it would take their mind somewhere else, and they'd be like, and the fact that you know that it's real. It's like, dang. So that didn't happen, but I started saying, man, I want all my books. I started just telling myself, I want all my books in people's homes. So I was like, I want to start up a book box subscription service where I started studying around. I'm like, where I'm going to box up a book, 2 books and I took the each one teach one from kind of like how y'all did out here with the, you know, the Rucker Park and stuff like that. Teach one, teach. You want people to teach somebody else. So I was like, I'm gonna give them 2 copies of the book. Yeah,
tell us about the subscription that you.
So they'll buy it if you buy an individual box subscription. You know, just an individual one. You get 2 books a month, 2 books and a gift. I gift you with a gift every month, and I'll send it out there. So what happened was, I started getting customers, and I'm like, dang, I only got like 12 books. I'm like, bro, you only got a year's worth. So I was like, all right, man. You need more than 12. I was like, I don't want people just to get 1 year and drop off dead. So I was like, all right. So I started writing. Like, I got to the point where I would start writing children's books. I was getting to the point where I was writing a book a day. Wow. So by the end of the year, I had published over like 60 books.
60 books.
And I'm still writing. I got like 4 or 5. And when I say my work game is like, I'll be working on 4 or 5 books at the same time. Like, I'm working on a book called The Squirter. I know that sounds crazy, and it's a crazy story.
It's about a kid with a water gun.
I'm working on a whole bunch of different books. I'm working on a book called Little Badass, but it's Little BADZ, and it's a book. It's actually a children's book. But it's based on a young kid living a criminal lifestyle, like Pac said, shorty want to be a thug, but where does it kind of leads him to a bad path. So it teaches them about the criminal world young, because young kids, they catch on to this stuff and they think it's so cool, this and that, but they'll learn. And I'm still working with the title because I want it to still be, but I want it to be like, kids still, they are so honest. They can read if you're being honest with them or not. They can read that so well. Like, they can meet you and be like, he fake. He ain't telling the truth. Or they can be like, that dude, like when I saw Tupac Shakur when I was 9 or 10 years old on TV talking, I was like, that's the realest dude. And I come on, I translate to a 9-year-old. All he was doing was talking. I was like, I was so drawn to him that I was just like, this dude is like the illest dude. I was like, we used to talk about him like, and I'm thinking like, we were only like 9, 10. How was he deciphering his verses? So that shows you how smart kids is even back then. Now,
Tupac had a lot of life experience in his young age.
Exactly. So I'm like, now the generations get wiser and weaker. So it's like, look, they got phones. They know, by the time they're 8 or 9, they could teach you something that you don't even know.
Definitely.
You could. So I'm like, I want to be transparent, but I know how it is to be a parent, and I know how it also, you know. So I wanted my stuff to be of shock value, but I wanted it to be real. And I started to create those books, and got to the point where I was like, man, I want to do something that no one's ever done before. I was like, I never walked into a store and I was like, I'm kind of a rebel author. I was like, I don't like the authors that's too like, I went to school too. I got 3 degrees, man. I got my master's, I got my bachelor's. I was like, I know how to write, but I've always been a rebel writer. I failed the 9th grade writing assessment because I write different. And I was like, I'm gonna be the rebel author. So I was like, let me write my books and let me have them walk into a store where every catalog in there is written by me, one author. Thrillers, romantic books, all kind. And I started challenging myself to do that. And then it started to come about. I hired somebody. I couldn't do websites. I hired somebody to create Darick Books website. Then I was like, I'm a real spiritual dude. I was talking to God. I'm like, Lord, I want to open up a bookstore. And I want to explain, when people say spiritual, I believe in God and Jesus, all that. That's me. But I don't press that on nobody else. That's just my own plight. And I put all that stuff in my books and that because that's my experience. I tell you, people can learn. You can learn something or you can experience something. It's different. Like I could teach, I could tell you all about Mr.13. Mr.13 is this guy. This, that. And you can learn him through me. But then when you walk up and shake his hand and you sit and have a conversation, you experience him, you like, dang, it's
totally different.
That's totally different. So I never press religion or thing on people because what I experience may be totally different than what you experience. So I was talking to God. I'm like, Lord, I want to have like a spot. This is how God moves. I want to have a spot where I can really, in Milwaukee, do a brick and mortar. That same morning, dude, 2 hours later, my mom calls me. She's like, hey, I was rolling past this place yesterday and we were trying to get, she was like, we were rolling past this place yesterday. And we was trying to, me and your father were looking at the building and this and that. It was a real nice building and such. And the guy, told us we couldn't have the building. And I was like, oh, they wanted to do some renting or whatever. He's like, no. And then they were like, well, my son, you might like him. He was like, what does he do? He was like, he wants to open a bookstore. He was like, tell him to give me a call. So she told me that 2 hours later. I'm like, this is some spooky time. I was like, all right. So I called him like 2 hours later. He was like an older white guy, whatever. And he was like, oh yeah, come over tomorrow. Come see the spot. So I was kind of skeptical and hesitant because I'm like, all right, whatever. I don't want him, I went, I walked in, and he's walking out. There's another like white guy walking in. And I'm just gonna tell you how a lot of times black people think like this. I mean, it's just your experiences. So it's like I was thinking like, this is an older white guy. He ain't gonna like me. I was like, I got tats and earrings. I'm like, man, he probably looking right at me because he was looking at me, and he was like, well, what is it you're trying to do? I was like, man, I'm trying to do something that's different. I was like, I'm trying to run a bookstore. I was like, but every book in here is gonna be written by me. And it's gonna have my music and some films and stuff like that. I was like, I just want to do something different. I never heard of a spot like this. So he's sitting there staring at me. You know how some people stare at you with a blank face and you just like,
you're not sure how to read it.
He ain't feeling me. So he's all of a sudden just started like walking me around. And as soon as I walked into the spot, it looked just like a bookstore. I could see it, but I don't want just a normal bookstore. I wanted to look different, you know what I mean, than just a regular bookstore. So we walking around the building, such and such, and he's like, well, eventually I want whoever, rents it to own it. And I was like, well, that's some situation I'm looking to do.
Gotcha.
And then he was like, well, what are you trying to offer for rent? And I just started like saying numbers. I shot a low ball number, And he was like, you're the lowest offer that I've been offered. I just turned down 24 people. And I'm sitting there, I do the swallow like, oh shoot, oh snap. So I walk outside, he's showing me stuff, and I'm like, he's like, your sign can go here. I said, Darick, what's this and that? And then he was like, he looked me dead in the face and he was like, I'm not gonna turn down your offer. And I was like, what? And then he was like, I swear, I promise you. He looked at me dead in my face and said, sometimes you got to take a leap of faith. I'm like, whoa.
That was the universe responding.
Exactly.
Or God, whatever you believe in.
Walk in faith. You got to walk, you got to speak it and walk into it. And I walked into it. And next thing you know, I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to go down to the city and fill out all the paperwork. And I'm, so I can get the occupancy and all of that. And he was like, cool. I was like, what do you need as a down payment? And, so she was like, just give me $200. This was 3 months ago.
Shit, that is unheard of in New York City.
$200. I gave him $200, and this is 3 months ago. He never gave the spot up to nobody else, anything. Like to this day, I'm having my opening next month.
Okay.
He actually, every time I called him, he was more positive than I was. He was like, don't worry about a thing. Everything's going to be all right. Like, I was like, who is this guy? Like, and he actually called the mayor. He put my name in the mayor's mouth. He said, He said, the mayor knows you. He knows about your bookstore and everything. He's like, I'll talk to him and he's going to give you a call. The office is going to give you a call. This is like last week. And I was like, yeah, right. Yeah, you know, I'm thinking like, right. No, 2 hours later, they were on my call. Phone.
That's
Darick,
dope.
such and such is the mayor's office, calling about Darick Books. And I'm sitting here like I couldn't believe it, but it just showed me like how thinking something and pushing. I keep looking at pushing the boundaries. Because it's true. Once you push the boundaries of something, like, and you say, I'm going to do this, and it's going to be crazy even when I open up the store. You know, you got challenges because I don't want it to be a normal bookstore. I've actually culminated a lot of ideas from Steve does fashion. So every time I come to New York and when I go to him and Mike's spot, I got an idea of like how they run fashion boutique, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I was like, I want my store to be fashion has a boutique makes love to a vinyl store of vinyl and a books. Yeah. But also where's retro where you like could get the books, but also since we're in a digital world, you can order everything online, the same thing too. And I want tables everywhere so I can teach people how to write books. Gotcha. I want people coming to the city and be like, hey, I want to be able to write a book. And I've already got like a few clients already that I'm helping write books. Gotcha. So it's like.
So you can actually give seminars, teach people the process and everything. Sessions. Got you. And
I never would have thought to be able to do that. And everything that I have ever put out is in my store. So I got music. I got film. I'm working on an album called Screenshots right now, which is it's just in-store exclusive. Gotcha. I've been watching those Griselda dudes.
Yeah, I like Griselda, Benny the Butcher.
Yeah, I love,
we gave MC of the Year on MadeForKings.com.
I love it. I love the way they do stuff. So even that is like looking at the way they have exclusive stuff. Even if you go to their site, they got exclusive albums that's just not even on iTunes. I took my music away from. I got albums on iTunes, but I always also took my music away from iTunes. Like, this album ain't gonna even be on iTunes. You can only get it in the store.
Yeah, I got you. So look, I hate to cut this short, but you know, this new show that we're doing is an hour long. We just went a little bit over.
Sorry, y'all.
It's all good though. This man is multi-talented. We could go all night talking. All night. I mean, one word I could use to describe him from our conversation is prolific.
Oh, thank you.
Man, he's putting out that work. So you got the store coming in Milwaukee. It's opening next month.
Darick Books will be opening February 2020, and we're gonna push the boundaries of. I keep saying push the boundaries of creativity, and you're gonna hear about it. I hope to open more Darick bookstores all around the world.
So anyone who can't visit the physical store,
go to Darick.
They could get it online. Tell them where they can get it.
DarickBooks.com. That's www. And Darick is spelled different. It's DARICK books.com. You know, I have book box subscription services, which I love to have in your home. Yeah. You could buy the music on my music digital, and I brought back where you could buy CDs, and I'm looking into getting vinyl. You could buy all that stuff from Darick Books. And anybody I work with on books and stuff, since that's part of the brand, they'll be listed in the store too as well. So
got you. So I want to thank Darick Spears for sitting with us, friend to the show. He was at the Cypher Show many years ago. Now he's here on my first episode of the Sit Down. And thank you for joining us tonight.
And one more really shout out to my wife.
Go right ahead.
Come here. I want y'all to see my wife. My wife is a very talented. She has this podcast. It's the dopest podcast out.
Shout it out. Shout out the podcast.
Ambition, Honey, and Hustle, iTunes, Spotify, everywhere you name it.
Yeah, so we like do a family business, and my boy Steve got the 2020 collection.
That's right, 2020
which is
collection.
Dope. That's 2020
and
vision.
Comfortable. He picks the right material. Feels good on you. I know personally.
I cop it.
Hook me up with some shit. It's one of my favorite shirts in my collection.
Go there. It's all about support. Support is not just saying congrats. It's going out there and actually purchasing it and wearing it. You know, that's support. Buying it. Even if you don't like my book, I love to just see you have one on your couch. You ain't even got to read it.
Somebody else will enjoy it. Let them read it.
Thank you so much again for y'all who gave me a jump start. The Cypher gave me my jump start, my confidence and all that kind of stuff to talk on the radio. So all that, I was like, if I could do it out there, I went everywhere I went. I'm like, man, I did it at the Cypher.
Well, thank you for coming through and, giving us an update on your journey. We look forward to sitting down with you again in the near future. And, to get a better understanding of each other, sometimes you got to have a sit down.
That's just right.
Peace.
Right. Peace.
Peace and love, y'all. We out.
Look, bro.